Good afternoon. How y'all doing?
How's it going? Good. Let's go to David on the front left. First one.
Hey, Clayton, what is put the ball down, the defensive mantra? Where did that come from? What does it mean?
Well, I got that from Dave Huxtable, former NC State defensive coordinator, who's now an analyst at Alabama. So him and Jeff Collins kind of got that thing going. So I kind of adopted it and made it to myself and put the ball down. It's just a mindset. It's make sure that every day that the kids come to the building, that their mind is set on football and, erase everything outside. And then, no matter what, no matter when, where, we want to play football. We want to play defensive football and sound ball. That's really what it means. It's a mantra more than a. It's pretty cool. I've been going with it for a while.
Let's go to Hale in the back right.
Can you share any horror stories from being in Greenville, North Carolina, as a player or coach? Do you have anything that's kind of sticks with you?
I'm very well aware of how things going to be down in Greenville. I've obviously been a North Carolina guy. Some of my very, very best friends are ECU faithfuls and ECU, alums, and it's going to be a great environment. Had a couple horror, nightmares. I don't want to relive those, but I tried my best to make this week about the Gamecocks. But more importantly, it's definitely going to be a great environment. Looking forward to the challenge.
Is that what you mainly tell your guys? Is it's a great environment and going to be tough playing?
It's one of those great East Coast environments on on this side of the country. East Carolina's a great place to go play football. Far as atmosphere and fans and all that good old stuff, you have to respect that, and we'll make sure our guys have a healthy respect for their program.
Let's go to Colin in the front right.
Speaking of East Carolina, just what have you seen on film from them offensively, and kind of what do they kind of major in from an offensive standpoint?
They obviously rely a lot on their. They have a big offensive line. They rely a lot on their quarterback, who was a big time recruit. At NC State we wanted him, and then obviously he decided to stay home. They have two really good running backs. 40, 47, 25 are really good players. Wide receivers have always been a thing for East Carolina. It's a highly skilled football unit that plays fast. They play hard. Coach Houston has done a great job of all the previous coaches before him also built the foundation at East Carolina, and they're just trying to continue that tough, hard-nosed play that they've always had for decades.
Stay on the right side. Daily Gamecock.
Hey, Coach, you guys held Eastern Illinois to no third down conversions last Saturday. How important is that to carry over into this Saturday?
It'll be nice to keep the momentum going in that trend. I think our guys understand how important it is on third down. Sometimes, those are clutch moments that you guys got to really be locked in. Offenses are calling their best plays to obviously move the chains, and we're trying to get into the best call to get off the field. I think that's very important that our guys have that mindset of get off the field, get the offense back on the field. Third downs is clutch, man. So, we got to understand that the stakes are kind of high.
David, front left.
Clayton, shutout, two picks, 2 sacks. What do you do for an encore? And when you're talking to the guys, how do you kind of draw the line between saying, "Hey, great game," but that was then, and then you got another one to play?
Yep, I would say Coach Beamer kind of sets that tone. We all believe in, if you come in the defensive staff room, the very first thing on my board is the defensive policy is one. It says defensive staff policy is one. It says celebrate all wins. They're hard to get at this level in college football. So we celebrate the win for 24 hours, then we flush it, and we move on to the next opponent. And you have to do the same thing with your players. I mean, they work hard, they go on the field, they win the game. You have to let them know the good things they did, the things they can improve, and how we can improve as a ball club. And I think Coach Beamer set the tone for that. So it's really easy for me to go in on Sunday and kind of transition to the next guys.
Stay on the left side. Corey in the back.
Clayton, I'm curious, want to get your insight.
Yep.
Zaquandre, when he was at Florida State, played some linebacker. From your vantage point, being a defensive guy, are there any characteristics from the linebacker position that can carry over to the running back spot?
Absolutely. When recruiting, you're hoping that the guys you're recruiting at linebacker have some offensive background, particularly running back, because of the vision and the timing of the blocks and understanding the flow of plays, and just the IQ aspect. They kind of give offensive guys a little bit more, so you kind of develop in that area. And when you come to play defense, I was an offensive player in high school. When you come to defense, it kind of slows things down. It's kind of perfect, but a running back in high school is a perfect linebacker at this level if they have the growth potential like Zaquandre does. I remember him out of high school too. He's a good player down in North Fort Myers.
Let's go to Colin, front right.
Clayton, the old coaching cliche is that the most improvement happens week 1 to week 2. What did you learn about this defensive unit in week 1, and what are some things you really want to see clean up as you get into ECU game week?
The first thing I learned that, one, they were able to bring training camp, spring ball focus into a live environment and a scrimmage against our offense, bring it to the game on a Saturday at a higher stakes. And I was proud of that, how they perform, obviously. Right now going from week 1 to week 2, you continue wanting to clean up just the footwork, your eyes. There was some big play potential out there that you guys probably didn't see on tape that we're going to harp on all week. As obviously at DB and linebacker, that's where the big plays happen at. So we're making sure that we covering those things that didn't happen, so we can try to answer those questions before they even get asked.
And how have you seen Brad Johnson kind of grow as he transitions to, I guess, full-time linebacker? And where have you seen the most growth from him over the course of training camp and then week 1?
The most growth from Brad has just been play recognition. I think when you're down on the line of scrimmage, it's only you're probably gonna read the tackle and then read the tight end or the back, and then the play's over with. At linebacker, you have to recognize the actual big picture formation, the big picture backfield set, and then the big picture of the defensive scheme. So I think for him, he has improved in that area. He's really shocked me in that area. I told him that all the time. He was a smart defensive lineman, but obviously Brad's background and with Coach Peterson, obviously he did a great job of just teaching him the overall football, defensive football, and just the big picture. But for me with Brad, from an on the field standpoint, he's continued to improve his footwork. Just trying to being from a 2-point speed stance guy now to a 2-point power stance linebacker, and just transitioning left and right. I think he's improved. Those are things he can continue to work on.
Let's go to Rick Henry, front right.
Clayton, is it easier or more difficult to get the guys' attention, especially when you're trying to correct mistakes after a blowout win? Would it be easier if you're doing that after a loss?
That's a fantastic question. It's actually harder to get their attention after a win, I think. So that's our job as football coaches, is to kind of flip the script. So, okay, so you guys played great, but here's some mistakes that here's some things that happened. Here's the things that could have happened when you're playing, obviously, a SEC opponent. So, like, some of those plays, that was 7-yard runs, could have been 25-yard runs versus another opponent. So we want to clean those things up to make sure that it doesn't happen in the weeks to come.
Let's go to Hale, back right.
Going back to Brad, with his experience playing that buck position, how much does that help him when you're sending him in as a pass rusher and getting after the quarterback that way? Or is it just too different because they're different positions?
No, that's a good one. It definitely helps. He understands, how tight those little windows are going to be. If you send him the blitz on a linebacker versus coming on the edge, he kind of understands just how things work up front. He understands that if a lineman hits me, that's going to be some heavy hands hitting me, so I got to make sure I have great balance and great base about myself. But him coming the linebacker from the buck position, he's transitioned very well, and he just could continue to get better.
Let's go to the Daily Gamecock, middle right.
Coach, I'm sure you heard that Debo Williams was named SEC Co-Freshman of the Week. Just how proud are you of him, and how do you keep him locked in to just keep getting better every week?
Yep, Debo's a guy that you really don't have to keep locked in, so I texted him congratulations after I saw it late. I was about 5 hours late, so I hope he didn't feel bad. But when I saw it, that's when I realized it. And he just told me, he said, Coach, keep being hard on me, keep pushing me. I said, brother, I'm proud of you. You're going to be a good player here. Just continue to work. And that's him. So there's not a lot. You don't have to push Debo Williams to as far as work, and just continue to develop him as a football coach. I think he's going to just flourish as long as he's here at South Carolina.
Let's go back to Hale, back right.
With the DBs, it seemed like y'all kind of rotated them in pretty fair amount. What do you feel like you were able to maybe see some separation between some of the guys with what they put on film the other
No,
night?
not really. We knew going into this thing that it was going to be a DB by committee type of thing, just because of all the guys that they lost last year, trying to develop everyone. So the focus is right now is get as many guys as we can, get as many fresh legs to cover bodies as we can. That's always been my philosophy. The more you have, the better off you're going to be in the long run. So we're going to continue to roll guys. We're going to continue to keep guys fresh. This road gets a little thick here a little bit, so I want to make sure we got fresh legs to cover.
Let's go to Corey Diaz, back left.
Clayton, and a follow-up on the secondary.
Yep.
How would you just describe after the first game their cohesion and chemistry, and were you surprised at all at kind of how they came together pretty quick?
I thought Coach Gray did a great job of just putting the game plan and getting those guys understanding their opponent. They practice very well, so the way they practice and the way they work, I'm not really surprised at the outcome, but I was very happy that how they transitioned to the game, how they managed themselves, how they communicated, the way that they made sure that the linebackers knew the checks. I mean, Jalen Dickerson one time walked up and and gave the defensive line a check and literally walked up 10 yards and walked back. So they had great intent to go out there and perform well, and I was proud of them. I really wasn't surprised. I was just more proud.
Let's go to John Little in the back right.
Sticking with the secondary, you said going into the last game you knew it was going to be by committee. Is there a point where you don't want it to be by committee and you know who your top guys are to keep out there for the most part?
To me, that's a position where you want as many good players as you can on the football field. So we're going to keep it rolling the way it is right now. We love how it's doing because, to me, I just know you got to have bodies ready the way this thing is set up in the SEC. And right now we're just going to keep grinding guys and it's all about developing as well. We have some young guys, so if you set them down too long, they kind of may go off to the left. So you want to keep them all on the right path, and I think that's where we are as a defensive unit right now. We want to stay on the same path together. Last week we talked about one guy shine, we all shine on defense. So we want to just keep that mindset. If Cam makes a play, we all should be celebrating. If D. Rush makes a play, we all should be celebrating, and so on. So that's kind of how the room is built right now, and we're loving it. Just want to keep it going.
And you have R.J. Roderick available to you this weekend. Do you think he'll start?
Yes, R.J. will be out there for sure.
Let's go to Augustus down in the middle right behind the camera.
So yesterday we heard from Brad Johnson. He told us about how excited you get and how it makes everyone else like really excited to like be at practice and to learn plays and stuff like that. So I want to know, just in terms of your passion and excitement, how important is that to your coaching style, and what are some, examples or instances where you can tell that your energy is really fed off to the guys?
I really can't tell when my energy feeds off of them. I just try my best to make sure that I'm not so high and I'm not so low. Obviously, there's times when you can't control it on both ends of that bar. So I try to be more the same for the 95% of the time. And they just know when they talking to me, they know that I love football, I love defense, I love offense, I love special teams, and I love coaching and developing. So I think that's what gets them. There's really not a lot of things else going on in my life right now. So it's all in on this right here. So, and they feel that, and I think that's the most important thing, and they give it back to me. And we meet halfway, and let's see what happens.
Stay next to Augusta. Go to Ben Portnoy right next to her.
Clayton, not that it's necessarily a surprise, but obviously Jalen Foster had a bunch of plays this past weekend. Just is that something you guys have seen from him week to week? I mean, as a guy that can make those plays, be a little bit of a ball hawk, or I know turnovers are kind of to some degree just right place, right time, but what have you seen from him to be able to make those plays and to make those steps and be a guy in that secondary that maybe you can rely on?
Yeah, definitely a guy you can rely on is Jalen Foster. He's one of our smarter IQ football players we have back there. He understands, things before they happen, and he understands, how things set up. He understands the big picture. So for sometimes you'll see those guys in position more than other guys who are more flashy because they can see things and they can have anticipation and imagination and that whole creativity. He has all that. So he's learned the playbook. So I told him, just like I say, Phil Jackson would say, once you learn the triangle, now you can make it yourself. You can be creative, and that's kind of where Jalen's at with it. He knows the whole defense, knows three positions. So I just say, go do your thing. Just make sure you're where you're supposed to be at, but use your own imagination. That's where he's at. So it's awesome. It's great to see. I love when guys get to that point in their career.
Let's go to Colin Taylor in the front right.
Clayton, from a big picture perspective, I'm not asking you to reveal state secrets, but from a defensive game plan perspective, how much does it change week to week based off opponents, or is it just this is our scheme, this is what we're going to run?
So just every single defensive coordinator we have, it kind of breaks down like you have staples, right? Everybody has their own staples they're going to run every single week. For the most part, they may tweak it here and there. And then you have things where you feel like you have it figured out and you can completely, get after them. And so then you have those. Then you have situational game planning. So it does change every week because obviously teams aren't the same. But for the most part, you have your staples, you have your scheme ideas, and then you have your situational planning.
Let's go to Corey in the back left.
Yep.
Clayton, school board aside, are you happy with the game you called out the first time, and how do you just sort of grade and assess yourself as a coordinator?
To me, it's like the way I actually assess it is that at the end of the day, did I get the calls in on time? Did we have the right personnel on the field? Did we do a good job as a defense of just communicating on the headsets? Did I make the right call based on the situation? Those kind of things. When I go home at night, I lay down, I say, all right, I got all that stuff out on time. I didn't have the players looking at me what plays. There was no hurry up. So kind of graded off that. The scoreboard part that's the bonus. That's the extra stuff. But as far as just operating as a coordinator and as a defensive staff, sideline adjustments? Are we doing those things? Yes, so that's kind of how we grade it.
Anything else for Coach White? Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Have a good afternoon.